If there's one thing that is defining the modern era of spaceflight, it is reusability. NASA's Space Shuttle experimented with the idea, and Spacex has further developed and popularized the idea. There are many other space programs and companies who have built reusable spacecraft, and today we put those spacecraft on a tier list. We won't be including SpaceX's Starship and Blue Origin's New Glenn, since those are quite far away from completion, and would beat out everything else on the list. We will be including the Pegasus air-launched rocket, since the carrier plane is effectively the first stage. Also, please remember to like and subscribe. I only have 15 subscribers, so it would help out a lot if you did. Now let's get into it. Our first D-tier vehicle is Blue Origin's New Shepard. The rocket is designed to fly 6 tourists on a suborbital flight. The rocket is made up of a rocket booster and a space capsule. The booster uses a single hydrogen-powered tap-off cycle engine called the BE-3. Once the booster is done, it separates from the capsule and then performs a propulsive landing, using its engine to land back on the pad. The capsule continues on its trajectory towards space, and then lands using parachutes. I put this in D tier because it can only fly a suborbital trajectory, which means it can only be in space for a few minutes and doesn't fly as fast as some of the other rockets. Next in D tier, we have the Virgin Galactic Spaceship 2. The Spaceship 2 is an air-launched spaceplane designed to carry 2 pilots and 6 tourists on a suborbital trajectory over the Kármán line, and then glide to a slow landing. It has a few features, including its very unique feathering system that raises the tail in flight to act as a giant air brake. I put this above New Shepard because Spaceship 2 can carry 6 passengers in and 2 pilots into space, while New Shepard can only bring 6 passengers and no pilots. First up in C tier, we have the Northrop Grumman Pegasus. This rocket is unique in the fact that it's launched from a plane, and since this plane is then landed back at the runway, I consider it to be partially reusable. The Pegasus is quite small, at least for an orbital rocket, with a fuselage diameter of only 1.27 meters and a length of 16.9 meters or 17.6 meters if you use the Pegasus XL version. The rocket is made up of 3 solid fuel stages, plus an optional monopropellant 4th stage. The Pegasus can lift a small payload weighing 443 kilograms into orbit, but since only the carrier plane is reusable, a launch using the Pegasus is quite expensive at around $40 million. Overall, this rocket is quite an interesting entry. Next up in C tier, we have Rocket Lab's Electron. Rocket Lab is pretty new to the space scene, but has been making waves with its Electron rocket. This rocket has some very innovative engines that use electric fuel pumps instead of normal turbopumps, and the normal turbopumps waste fuel to spin the turbopumps, but these electric fuel pumps don't. But what has been really interesting is Rocket Lab's recent attempts at reusability. The rocket was originally intended to be an expendable launch system. However, Rocket Lab have started reusing their lower stages. They have successfully recovered 1 stage after a splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. However, Rocket Lab has another way they wish to reuse their lower stages. They are attempting to recover their first stages by catching them out of the sky using a helicopter. The Electron will use a parachute to slow itself down, and then use a hook to snag the parachute and catch the rocket. Then, the lower stage will be placed on a barge where it will be brought back to the launch site, refurbished, refueled, all that stuff. The Electron is in C tier because it can only bring 225 kilograms into orbit. However, I rate it higher than the Pegasus because one launch of the Electron costs only $7.5 million, making the Electron one of the cheapest ways to launch something into orbit. Next is our only B tier entry, United Launch Alliance's Vulcan-Centaur rocket. The Vulcan-Centaur is a partially reusable rocket, and our first heavy lift launch vehicle on this list. The Vulcan-Centaur is ULA's real first step into reusability. Most of the rocket will be expendable, but the first stage engines, Blue Origin's next generation BE-4s, will be separated from the fuel tank and then parachuted down, and then a helicopter will come and pick them up, similar to Electron's reusability plan mentioned earlier. The Vulcan-Centaur will come in a few configurations, different amount of booster rockets attached to it, ranging from 0 booster rockets to 6 on the most powerful version, the Vulcan-Centaur Heavy. Payload to low Earth orbit will range from 10,600 kilograms on the Vulcan-Centaur VC0 to 27,200 kilograms on the Vulcan-Centaur Heavy. The price of a single launch will vary drastically depending on which configuration you choose, from $80 million in the VCO to $200 million in the Heavy. Overall, the prices are a substantial improvement from ULA's previous rockets. The first flight of the Vulcan-Centaur is expected to happen sometime in 2021. Moving on to A tier, we have the Biron Energia, the Soviet Union's reusable launch system. The Biron is the name of the orbiter, and it was designed to be attached to the super heavy Energia rocket booster. The Energia booster was expended, but the Biron orbiter was deorbited and then glided back to the launch site. There's only one uncrewed flight test of 1988 before the program was sadly canceled because of the political situation in the Soviet Union at the time. The Biron was capable of putting a sizable 30,000 kilograms into low Earth orbit. Overall, a very nice entry. Next in A tier, we have a true legend of a rocket, an iconic symbol of spaceflight, the Space Shuttle. This rocket is what really kicked off the race for our reusable launch system. The Space Transport System was its official name, and it consisted of 4 parts: the 2 solid rocket boosters on the side, the external fuel tank, and the Space Shuttle orbiter itself. The Space Shuttle's main engines are some of the most advanced engines ever created, the RS-25s. The RS-25 used liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, and used an innovative closed-cycle design, making it one of the most efficient engines ever. The Space Shuttle is a partially reusable launch system, with the solid rocket boosters parachuted down and recovered, and the orbiter gliding all the way back to the launch site. The external fuel tank was not reused, however. The Space Shuttle fails in one massive way, though: cost. One launch of the Space Shuttle costs anywhere from $576 million to $1.64 billion. The high cost defeated the purpose of having a reusable rocket, being able to save money. However, because of the Space Shuttle's incredibly advanced technology and its legacy, I think it deserves a spot in the top of A tier. Now we get on to S tier, the top dogs when it comes to reusable rockets. First up, we have SpaceX's Falcon 9. While the Space Shuttle started reusability, the Falcon 9 perfected it. The Falcon 9 has become one of the most flown rockets ever, and for good reason. It can bring a solid 15,600 kilograms to orbit, but its real selling point is the price. A Falcon 9 launch costs only $50 million, making it one of the most cost-effective rockets currently flying, putting other rockets to shame. It is partially reusable, recovering its booster by landing them propulsively on a tiny barge in the middle of the ocean. If you haven't watched one of these landings, you must. The amount of precision required to perform the landing is absolutely mind-blowing. This rocket can only be outclassed by one other rocket. The next rocket is the king of all rockets flying today. It's the most powerful rocket currently operating, and has 27 engines on its lower stage. This is the Falcon Heavy. The Falcon Heavy is essentially 3 Falcon 9s strapped together, and can lift 30,000 kilograms to orbit if all 3 lower stage boosters are recovered, and 63,800 kilograms to orbit if all 3 boosters are expended, meaning that the Falcon Heavy is considered a super heavy lift launch vehicle. These statistics alone are incredible, but what's even wilder is the price. One launch costs $90 million. Let's compare this to the Space Shuttle, which costs $576 million and can put roughly the same amount of payload in orbit. We can see that the Falcon Heavy does the exact same thing as the Space Shuttle, but for only 1/6 of the price. The Falcon Heavy is one of the greatest rockets to ever fly, and a true masterpiece of engineering. This rocket is absolutely deserving of our #1 spot on our reusable rockets tier list. Now, please like and subscribe, and maybe watch another video. Goodbye.